Hello, I'm Ryan Lightfoot-Brown of Fund Caliber, and today I'm joined by Chris McGoldrick, the elite-rated Deputy Manager of the Stewart Investors Asia Pacific Leader Sustainability. Chris, thank you very much for your time today.
No, thank you very much.
Now, sustainability has been a real buzzword in the investment management industry of late, but Stewart Investors has been doing this for decades, investing in sustainability for a long, long time. What makes the Stewart Investors approach different?
Yeah, thank you for that. I think you're right to point out, I think we're possibly one of the longest continuing sustainable funds and certainly in Europe, looking at the Asia Pacific universe. So it's been in our DNA since we started investing. So back when our investment philosophy was devised some 30 years ago, it was very much built on quality and sustainability. We didn't use the word as we do now, but it's always been an appreciation of equality for all stakeholders, and a high quality company does that instinctively, and we've invested that way, as I say, for the best part of 30 years. What I think the difference is that many of our competitors in the industry tend to see ESG, as it's become very fashionably known, as a sort of separate analytical skill, often carried out by departments that are not connected to the main investment team. Whereas at Stewart Investors, we've been practicing ESG for, as I say, 30 years, and it's embedded in each and every analyst, and it's a starting point. Sustainability is a starting point for us. We do look at a company's sustainability positioning to see part of the opportunities and the risks from the future development of the company and the country in which they operate.
When you say sustainability, it's often synonymous with climate change, but you also focus on the human development side. Can you just explain to us what exactly that encompasses?
Yes, I think climate change is obviously a very important and pressing problem for us. But we feel that sustainability is much more broader reaching than that. And it should encompass, and it does for us, encompass all sorts of inequalities, whether it be on a gender basis, on a race basis, or it should be the quality of life for as many people as possible. And obviously we want human development without depletion. The simple and sad fact of the world today is that if the large nations that are present in China and India are to grow in the same way that the Western economies have had, we simply don't have the resources for that to eventuate. So we have to think of our companies that we look at have to be able to adapt and realize that they're operating with finite resources in order to grow and develop people's life in a meaningful way without depleting the scarce resources that the world has in its core.
And maybe sort of bringing it to life with an example, Vitasoy is one of those holdings that fits in the category. Can you just tell us a bit about their story, please?
Yes, we've been very fortunate to be owners of Vitasoy for a great number of years, and we marvel at their history. It was a company that very much came out to the ashes of the World War II, where there was a great number of refugees, also around the world, but particularly in Asia. And the family, the founder there, recognized that these people, the refugees, needed high quality calories at a lower price. So he started from a point of goodness, of trying to provide people with protein, as I say, at a low price. And they found out that soya was one of the best ways of doing that. It also has the great advantage of not being too water dependent, and therefore has a very strong sustainability positioning to it. So we look at companies where sustainability is embedded in their DNA, and that point that they started out with a mission in order to give people food at a good price and to make profit from doing so, is a very strong starting point for us, and one that we tend to look at with all the companies, is the ethos behind the company, one of sustainability, and that's where where all our reports start, and why I think we're different from many of our competitors who just think of ESG as a sort of box ticking exercise. It has to be incorporated with what the company is actually doing and what its purpose is.
Yeah, the ethos that you touched on there is quite an interesting point. I know that one of your other top 10 holdings is Tech Mahindra, and they, as you pointed out to us before, they paid a lot of attention to sort of employee well-being during the pandemic.
Yes.
We had sort of virtual dance classes, meditation sessions. Was it a good employer before the pandemic, or is this a new thing?
Yeah, the history of Tech Mahindra is fascinating, actually. It used to be a business called Satyam, which was one of the largest corporate scandals in Indian history, I think it's fair to say. And at that point, a very fine group known as the Mahindra family, chaired by Anand Mahindra, purchased the franchise at distressed prices. And it's a software services business where obviously the key assets of the business are their people. And looking after these people is very much, it brings out the best in the Mahindra group. They've injected a very strong culture of respect for all their employees. So it's not to say that it hasn't always been that way, but under the Mahindra stewardship, we are very pleased with the way that they treat their employee. As I said, the key assets of the business, and they need to be treated with respect. And obviously, it's been a very challenging time for all businesses, with people being forced to work from home and the sort of mental health challenges that can face. So we're not at all surprised to find that they have been innovative in thinking of ways to keep morale and sentiment positive amongst their employees.
And in the process of selecting your companies, you do look at the company itself rather than the geography of where it's based. But you do have quite a large amount in Indian companies, actually, nearly sort of 40% of the portfolio. Do they have any sort of common traits, or is it something about the sort of the country and those people as a collective that you really like?
Well, it is a fascinating culture and history and country. You're right, but that's not the driving force behind that. Our geographic splits are very much a result of bottom-up stock selection. But you're right, and a lot of the companies that we have invested in India do have a common trait. They tend to be family businesses, some wonderful family, multi-generational businesses operating in India, which grow despite the political difficulties in that economy. They've had many years of growing despite the obstacles that politicians can put in their way. And we learn an awful lot from them, actually, how to treat, we believe there's no perfect company, but certainly some of the better ones that we find in terms of their sustainability positioning, their respect for all stakeholders, etc., is most abundant in Indian family businesses. And obviously, there's such a large population there, which is giving a long runway of growth for the businesses. So there's plenty of scope for growth, but with very responsible stewardship, something that we look for greatly, and we often find that more abundant in family businesses, particularly ones that have decided to be family owned but professionally managed, and many of the businesses that we have in India have that characteristic. Financially, the characteristic that will be common is very strong profitability and a very robust balance sheet. You'll find that most of the companies that we invest in India, with the exception of the financials, obviously, have net cash balance sheets and very strong cash generation.
Well, excellent, Chris. As expected, that's been really interesting. So thank you very much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you.
And if you'd like more information on the Stewart Investors Asia and Pacific Leaders Sustainability Portfolio, please visit our website, fundcaliber.com. And for more from our video series, please don't forget to like and subscribe below.